As I said, if you've just joined or you're came in late, Senator Adam Schiff, a friend, a partner, endorsing our campaign.
Well, first of all, let me say how proud I am to support you, Eric. And, before you got in the race, it was fully my intention to probably stay out of the race. A lot of friends are running. A lot of very, capable people are in this field who, I have great respect for. But there are a couple of things that compelled me. One is that when you got in the race, here was somebody that I'd worked with for over a decade, who I had seen stand up to Donald Trump and stand up to all his MAGA allies, no matter what they threw at you, Eric. And they're attacking you again now because they fear that you'll be successful in this race, and they don't want a powerful person in the governor's office once again to stand up to this president.
We'll get through this. We're better than he is. And you often like to quote our colleague Elijah Cummings, the late Elijah Cummings, who would say, we are better than this. And that's just how I see our state, and that's how I see our country.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. During the first impeachment trial, and you did such a magnificent job in the second one, I made an appeal to my fellow senators that we could not leave a man like this in power. First of all, we had proven him guilty of what he was charged with, but this was somebody who couldn't tell the truth. He was just incapable of telling the truth. He did not know right from wrong, and he was fundamentally indecent. And it wasn't that the senators should remove him because he was indecent and he couldn't tell right from wrong and he couldn't tell the truth, and those things didn't matter all to him, but because they mattered to my colleagues, I appealed to them that he is not who you are. Well, sadly, there are plenty of them who I guess he is who they are.
Moments ago, California Congressman Eric Swallwell announced he will resign from Congress in the wake of serious allegations of sexual assault and misconduct. Allegations first published in the San Francisco Chronicle and by CNN that have now ended Swallwell's candidacy for California's open governor's seat. The San Francisco Chronicle spoke with a former member of Swallwell's congressional staff who detailed multiple encounters that she had with Swallwell that included unwanted sex. Her allegations include 2 detailed graphic accounts of encounters which resulted in the woman waking up without clothes on in Swallwell's hotel room. The San Francisco Chronicle corroborated her account of events with text and Snapchat messages the staffer exchanged with friends and Swallwell in the immediate aftermath of those encounters, along with medical records, which MS Now has reviewed. Those records detail pregnancy and STD testing that was administered a week after an encounter with Swallwell. In a statement ending his gubernatorial campaign, Eric Swallwell said this, quote, "To my family, staff, friends, and supporters, I am deeply sorry for mistakes in judgment I've made in my past. I will fight the serious false allegations that have been made, but that's my fight, not a campaign's." This afternoon, the House Ethics Committee announced it will be opening an investigation into Congressman Swallwell. And again, moments ago, in a social media post, Eric Swallwell announced that he will be resigning from Congress.
All units proceed to your post assignments. All units proceed to your post assignments.
That's the sound of the police. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the beast.
Yeah, baby. It's episode 27 of Probable Cause on April 14th, 2026. Jeff Norman and the FBI whistleblower himself, Greg Dillon, with you as we always are on Tuesday nights. And tonight we're very pleased to have with us Nils Grevillius. He is a highly regarded private investigator based in Southern California. One might even say Pasadena, but I don't want you to be doxxed, Nils, so I didn't even mention that. Nils is a former soldier, spy, and undercover operative, and he is the author of The Last Lawman, a book about his life as a private investigator, to be published in June, and you can pre-order it right now on our website at ustourofduty.org, so please do so. Good evening, Greg and Nils. How are you, gentlemen?
Very good.
I don't think I've ever had a finer day, Mr. Norman.
Wow, well, don't peak too soon, Nils. Save a little bit for later in the show.
I'm always peaking.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thanks for the warning. So I have never met a private detective before.
That you know of.
Yeah, right. Good point. That point. If you guys are doing your job well, I wouldn't necessarily know, would I?
Not necessarily.
Greg, as you might know, is a former Branford, Connecticut police officer, and he was also an agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I wonder if there is sometimes friction between private investigators and governmental agencies. Shall I put that question to you first, Greg? Have you had experience interacting with private investigators?
Yes. As a local police officer, as an FBI agent, and not so much as an FBI agent, though. It was mostly local police and with the state. I don't really recall ever having to work with a PI with the feds, but in the beginning,
a rewarding experience. Did you cop attitude because you are armed and trained and risk your lives and whatever you might think of the private investigators, or did you treat them with respect?
well, they're usually armed and trained, but like any other profession, you have professionals and you have semi-professionals and you have rank amateurs. It was a big help. Oftentimes, somebody, usually a veteran, an experienced officer or detective, could vouch for a PI that would come in, and that made it much, a much easier relationship. But if they came in stone cold and you've never, heard of them, you could not connect with them on through some mutual acquaintance, then it was a little bit of a cool relationship, I would say, because you weren't sure what you were dealing with.
Right. Nils, I bet you could say the same thing. Some cops are better than others. What has been your experience dealing with?
Well, a dramatic shift over the last 35 years. It used to be that you had to be retired LEO to get any kind of traction at a public agency. Mm-hmm. And I accepted that going into the game. I was a counterintelligence agent in the Army, and I was in the Pinkerton service for a few years before I went out on my own. And I always presumed that I had to make my bona fides with any agency, that sort of thing. One of the ways that I went about it was I paid my way through both levels of police academy at Rio Hondo when I was new to the profession, just to have post certificates and to expand my network, that sort of thing. And I let my work speak for itself. I picked up a lot of fugitives. I worked some cold case homicides. Sometimes police agencies are absolutely infuriating, and I have to back up a minute and remember that I have a real advantage that they don't have. I don't have some bastard of a lieutenant leaning over me, telling me what to say, what to think, what's a good case, what's a bad case, based on whatever the suits at City Hall or the County Board of Supervisors are doing. I will say that some of the agencies around metropolitan Los Angeles have been nothing other than job security for me. At the very moment they got busy doing what they're supposed to be doing according to the public charter, I'd be out of work, wouldn't I? So Greg is correct.
That's what I would have assumed, is that one of the reasons people hire you is because the police just aren't paying attention to whatever their situation is, because they have to prioritize. They can't work on everything. Is that how you get a lot of your work?
Some of it's allocation of resources. Sometimes it's the filing policy of the local district attorney. If Greg borrows Jeff's car in the state of California and Greg never returns it, it's not grand theft, even though he intended to steal the car, because it's permissive use. You'll never get a felony filing, even a misdemeanor filing, out of any district attorney, any city attorney in the state of California on that. And if Jeff calls them up and says, "Oh my God, Greg Dillon stole my car," and makes something up about him taking the keys to get it into the system as a stolen, they will charge Jeff with the false report before they ever charge Greg with the theft of the car.
Yeah.
Got it. Well,
Jeff, I'm sorry. No, the advantage that Nils holds is when he contracts for a case, especially if he has a client of means, he doesn't have to worry about the next case taking place to replace what he's working on. So if you're working a homicide case and, you know, those first 48 hours are obviously critical, but then all of a sudden, well, here's your next homicide case. You know, Nils has the benefit of saying, no, I have my case. I'm working my case, where the detective doesn't have the luxury of saying, no, I already have this case that I'm hot on. The supervisor is going to say, no, now this is your new case and this one's priority. And so the other one goes, you know, on the back burner, maybe never to resurface, which then becomes a cold case. So there are certain areas where the private investigators actually have the upper hand. They may not have always the authority that the police have, but they have other ways where they can make it work to their advantage.
Well, annoying supervisors is the first thing that Nils mentioned. And if you were to read Greg's book, Nils, you would know that annoying supervisors are an understatement, or is an understatement. He wound up filing a lawsuit, and well, I won't give away too much, but suffice to say, this is a good book that you should read when you get a chance. And this is Nils' book, which is coming out in June.
Nils, that looks very interesting. I'm gonna put that one on my list.
Yeah,
and vice versa.
Well, before the show's over, we should spend a little bit more time talking about the pros and cons of private detectives versus police, what each are able to do, the advantages and disadvantages. But let's turn our attention to our main topic, Eric Swallwell. Somerville John, one of our regulars in South Carolina. Thanks for all the smoke today, John. I don't know if you know, but we got all kinds of smoke in North Carolina today because of your forest fires. So if you could mellow out there, I'd appreciate it. John's telling us yet another accuser came forward today, as if we didn't know. But it's kind of like, you ever see those tickers, like in real time, that tell what the national debt is? You know, I guess what I'm talking about? I have a feeling like pretty soon we may have to set up one of these for Eric Swalwell's accusers.
He may become the next white Bill Cosby.
Yeah. But right now, I think it's at 5. But you're the expert, Nils. Is it 5 at the moment?
Who's counting? I think it's 5 women and 1 transvestite at this moment.
Are you serious or kidding about the
Do I look like I'm kidding, Mr. Norman?
I will neither confirm nor deny my suspicion.
I would bet you that Swallwell has probably blown more trannies than NASCAR. Okay, so
here's another advantage of being a private detective. You can say stuff like that.
Call my lieutenant. Call him right now. Make a complaint. I'm begging you. Okay.
Well, I have my suspicions too, and actually, the one who I'm really training my sights on is Shifty Schiff. I have a feeling there's something that's going to surface on him.
This is what I can tell you about Mr. Schiff. Remember when Mr. Schiff used to pretend to be like a national security Democrat, a good government Democrat? He helped John Ashcroft write the what was it, the Patriot Act, when he was my congressman here in Pasadena, Burbank area, that sort of thing. That was his claim to fame.
Right.
And he has gradually devolved into something pretty close to Ed Buck's stunt double. I don't want to accuse the man of sexually assaulting anyone, but he seems just a little too handsy and friendly with our friend Swalwell here. And the other one who seems just a little too consanguineous, to use some Anglo-Saxon vernacular there, is Ruben Gallego. Swalwell's business partner, whom, like Schiff, was falling all over himself 3 weeks ago to slobber all over Swalwell in his endorsement, and now is running away with his hair afire, pretending as if he had no clue that Swalwell was ever one of these guys.
Yeah, I'm looking for a video. I can't believe I wanted to show it. I'm not able to find it now. This was from about 2 months ago. Schiff was saying how much he loves Swalwell because he's such a decent guy. Why can't I find it?
A staggering lack of self-awareness on the part of of Adam Schiff when he starts talking about integrity, faith to voters, duty, all of these other things, violations of law, Adam Schiff, honesty, these sorts of things. Just a staggering lack of self-awareness from this man.
Oh, here, I got it. I found it. This, hang on one second. It's just going to take a few seconds to upload. There it is. Okay, so this is Adam Schiff joining Swallwell on some kind of a podcast. I guess it was, or their own private Zoom chat or something or other. And here he is showering him with praise.
As I said, if you've just joined or you're came in late, Senator Adam Schiff, a friend, a partner, endorsing our campaign.
Well, first of all, let me say how proud I am to support you, Eric. And, before you got in the race, it was fully my intention to probably stay out of the race. A lot of friends are running. A lot of very, capable people are in this field who, I have great respect for. But there are a couple of things that compelled me. One is that when you got in the race, here was somebody that I'd worked with for over a decade, who I had seen stand up to Donald Trump and stand up to all his MAGA allies, no matter what they threw at you, Eric. And they're attacking you again now because they fear that you'll be successful in this race, and they don't want a powerful person in the governor's office once again to stand up to this president.
We'll get through this. We're better than he is. And you often like to quote our colleague Elijah Cummings, the late Elijah Cummings, who would say, we are better than this. And that's just how I see our state, and that's how I see our country.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. During the first impeachment trial, and you did such a magnificent job in the second one, I made an appeal to my fellow senators that we could not leave a man like this in power. First of all, we had proven him guilty of what he was charged with, but
Oh, I forgot. I played this in the opening already. I'm losing my mind. Anyway, I guess we don't need to see the rest of that or see it again. Sorry about that. So I think Schiff was one of the first people to call for him to resign, and a lot of other Democrats did too. What? Are you a Democrat?
No, I have a theory.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying me too. What's your theory?
Well, my theory is about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, Kash Patel said something about declassifying and completely throwing open the Fang files. And I think that this whole thing was precipitated by the Fang files. I think that this is the worst, this thing with him abusing women, getting handsy, taking advantage, doping them, whatever he's doing is familiar territory within the Democrat Party and within the political media. I think that they've just been sitting on this wondering when they were going to have to air their own stink bomb here. And when Kash Patel started talking about opening up the Fang files in response to Mr. Swallwell demanding more Epstein material, claiming that Donald Trump had something to hide in the Epstein files, and we revisited the thing where he said that any man who had 4 complaints against him, like Kavanaugh had, Justice Kavanaugh had, that obviously there was something going on. So Patel starts making noise about declassifying and opening up the Fang files, and suddenly 2 things start to occur. Suddenly, the 10-pound bag of the 5-pound bag of poop that has 10 pounds of it stuffed inside starts to leak a little bit out the edges of the media, the blogosphere, whatever you want to call it, all over MS Now a little bit maybe. And then Swalwell's attorney is sending a certified letter to the Justice Department demanding that there be absolutely no transparency on the Fang files, even though Mr. Swalwell did absolutely nothing with Fang, the Chinese spy who was on his staff, that he was probably shagging the same way he was doing everything else. Okay. So the counterintelligence side of Nils Grevillius believes that that's what precipitated all of this. And Adam Schiff, because of his past presence on all of these committees and everything related to intelligence and national security and everything else, knows exactly how ugly the Fang file is for Eric Swalwell, for the security of the United States and for the general health and well-being of the Democrat cult.
Interesting. I buy that logic. So you think the Dems knew about that, and so they got more hyped up about these other affairs because that's what Scott Adams used to call the fake because. You seize the opportunity for that will, work, but there's really some other reason. That's the larger reason.
That's what I think.
Look at Greg nodding. He's taking it all in.
Well, I think that they say there's like 30 different women that have come forward now with stories, not necessarily rising to sexual assault, but him sending either inappropriate text messages or invitations or Snapchat photos of his body. But the count is yeah.
Be specific, Mr. Dillon. Don't hold back. I'm going to be very disappointed if you go completely like G-rated on me here. This isn't Teen Vogue. Let's have it.
No, I don't know any of the sordid details other than it seems like now there's a
use your best estimate. Come on, you were a special agent in the federal tsunami. Hoover's pinwheeling in his grave at your reticence here, Special Agent Dillon. Let's have it.
I have no inside information other than what I see on
the inside information. Just tell us what you think. Okay? Don't hold back. I'm not your lieutenant. I'm not going to tattle on you, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's just going to be more and more women coming forward with, the kind of the Me Too movement type thing. I don't know how many will be actually criminal level offenses, but it seems like there's going to be a lot coming forward with similar stories of being approached and being solicited and that type of thing.
Well, so far we have the Manhattan DA announcing an investigation, and that's based on the accusation made by one of the original four.
Yeah, I believe she lives in Connecticut, the one who just came forward recently. Okay.
Now, is this one anonymous or not anonymous?
The one who I just saw on TV is obviously not anonymous. And
today? No. The Manhattan DA is investigating one of the original four, not today's.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble sorting them all out. And I don't think this is the transvestite either. So go ahead.
I don't think that female accusers accusing men of sexual assault should have their identities concealed as a rule. Maybe there'd be some special case. But I don't like it as a policy at all. It gives women who might be making false accusations far too much power. I also think it kind of perpetuates the very thing that we're trying to eradicate, which is, that the shame that the women should feel shameful. So it's like, well, don't feel shame. And if you do, well, I mean, that's unfortunate, but every other accuser pretty much gets identified. What do you guys think?
Well, if it's a juvenile, I say keep it undercover. If it's an adult female leveling a public accusation, don't cover it up at all. You remember what occurred when they did that thing in Rolling Stone magazine, and then you'd get blown off of Twitter and Facebook if you identified who the fake rape victim was, even if after it had been made such that everybody knew she had made the whole thing up. The story was a farce, and you'd still get 86 from social media if you mentioned her name.
Yeah. Yes, I do. I think it was Duke University or some college, right?
University of Virginia, a rape on campus.
Oh, very good. So this is today's accuser. I think I have her some video of her. Her name is Lana Drews. This one is not anonymous. She sounds believable. Well, watch and judge for yourself. Here we go.
I believe he drugged my drink. I only had one glass of wine. We were supposed to go to a political event, and he said he needed to get paperwork from his hotel room. When I arrived at his hotel room, I was already incapacitated, and I couldn't move my arms or my body. He raped me. and he choked me. And while he was choking me, I lost consciousness. And I thought I died. I did not consent to any sexual activity. Although I did not undergo a rape kit at the time, I disclosed the assault to the people closest to me.
Wow. So we go from him dropping out of the governor's race to resigning from Congress. Is this going to go to prison? Is that the next step? Criminal charges?
I think that they're going to file on the man. Even though she's represented by Lisa Bloom, I'm going to say she's very credible. Lisa Bloom is Gloria Allred's daughter.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to let that stand in the way of this woman's credibility. She seems very credible to me.
Right. Well, once Swallwell's career has been ruined, which it seems to have already been done, what would be the possible incentive for women to make false accusations? I mean, would Democrat, people who are allied with the Democratic Party have any need to pay them at this point?
Well, there's the difference between the civil and the criminal. The criminal penalty is if the man's convicted, he goes to prison, correct? And then there's the civil part of it. Sometimes the civil is the better avenue of approach when someone is a victim. Sometimes you can't get. Sometimes you can't get a filing because of a statute of limitations, a lack of evidence, that sort of thing. You might have evidence of sexual harassment and incredibly bad behavior in a workplace, that sort of thing, but you can't prove rape beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt. Well, in the civil arena, the standard is preponderance of the evidence.
Right. So there has to be a belief that some fairly substantial amount of money is possible. Is he wealthy, Eric Swallwell? He's going to have to be very wealthy based on the number of people. If you divide that figure by, let's say, 30 accusers.
I'm going to say his money is other people's money. He's afloat on the cryptocurrency that we have here in California. It's like homeless services funds, criminal justice funds, Black Lives Matter money, stuff like that. That's what he floats on. Otherwise, I think he is without assets. I don't think he could even call himself an asset at this point.
Yeah, he doesn't have Richard Blumenthal money, that's for sure.
Speaking of assholes, or did you say assets? So here's an interview with. Go ahead. Nils, you started to say something?
He's a Marine Corps combat veteran, isn't he? Isn't Blumenthal the famous non-combat combat veteran of the United Snakes Marine Corps? Is that the Hanoi Dick? Is that the man that Greg is speaking of?
The Nang Dick. Yep, that's him.
He had a certain position.
Right. I have more time in the stockade than that man has in uniform. Okay.
What was he when you were toiling in Connecticut, Greg? Was he the Attorney General then, or something?
He was, yes. He's in my book quite a bit as the Attorney General.
Yeah.
He provided the attorneys for the chief state's attorney that I was suing.
Right. And the other senator from Connecticut, Murphy, is also an asshole. So we have a lot to be proud of, us Connecticut natives. Let's take a look at a clip from a CBS interview with 2 or 3 of the accusers from earlier today.
Fact that he has now dropped out of the governor's race and resigned from Congress, is that justice in your view?
No, it's just the beginning. It's just the very beginning. And I know personally that we're not walking away from this fight.
For me, justice won't be until he can't ever harm a woman ever again, and he has faced the consequences for the women that he has harmed.
I think in regards to the governor's race, he never should have ran for governor to begin with, knowing the kind of history and receipts that are out there. So that's a non-starter. And then in terms of Congress, I think he absolutely should have resigned. I think we just prevented another 30 to 40 years potentially of him harming people if he were to stay in Congress.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I think we have served justice for his future victims.
Wow.
That won't exist anymore.
So I guess these women aren't anonymous. I mean, I guess theoretically their names could be concealed, but there they are.
Where was CBS News 5 years ago?
Yeah.
What were they doing
curious,
5 years
Jeff,
ago?
No one seems to have made mention of his wife and family at this point.
Oh, I think a few people
Well,
have.
his
Oh, they
wife
have. Okay,
gave-
I haven't seen anything.
What can you
his
say?
wife gave an
Sorry for her
the
and
most
wonder.
amazing endorsement.
Say it again, Nils?
She endorsed him. Her endorsement of the other day is just amazeballs. It's so wonderful. I mean,
What
she's
she endorsed
ranting
him
and raving it about
after the scandal broke, you mean?
after the scandal broke.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. Oh my God. I think if we looked up masochist in the dictionary, we might see her picture.
Nils, you may be getting more information just because of your proximity to, within the state. Maybe they're covering it with a little more detail than they are nationally. Because I was curious why no one has sought out the wife for some sort of a statement or something. But apparently you're in on that.
Well, so the video endorsement that she made like 2-3 weeks ago when things started to stink up is really fantastic. And it's very expositive. Here in California, we have a tame petting zoo media for the Democrat cult. They never need to fear California media other than a few outlets like Jennifer Van Laar at Red State.
But
Jennifer Van Laar, she destroyed a congresswoman in 2017 or 2018 who was involved in a throuple, Katie Hill. And then we have Katie Grimes at the California Globe. She's damn good. And we have Adam Carolla. But any other, like the Sacramento Bee, the San Francisco Chronicle, the El Segundo Times, the San Diego Union Tribune, they give the Democrats a daily tongue bath. I guarantee you.
But hasn't the New York Post just started operating a Los Angeles edition? Doesn't that change things a bit?
A bit, but you have to remember that the New York Post and the California Post, that's tabloid media as far as the beautiful people are concerned. You remember what they did to the New York Post with the Hunter Biden laptop story? If you put the New York Post up on Facebook or Twitter, you'd get banned.
Yep.
I was permanently banned from social media in 2022, and that's when I started writing my book.
Good for you.
Yeah, but I don't think that's going to happen now. I haven't been reading it, but I've always found the New York Post to be very entertaining and valuable in a way, because like you say, it doesn't, the elites may not take it seriously, but I think the fact that average people read it is a way to get people paying attention to certain issues that they otherwise wouldn't pay attention to. So I think that's kind of important, actually.
Well, I certainly read it. I can't take the LA Times seriously. There's some good people at the LA Times, but they're regularly stepped on by the Bolshevik filth who populate the newsroom. I mean, their whole thing is dialectic Leninism. I mean, they derided Larry Elder, who was running for governor of California, a black man. They called him the black face of white supremacy in this state.
Nils, it would seem that the New York Post and the New York Times have the same sort of disparity as out in California on your side there.
I think that's a fair statement, Mr. Dillon. And I've read the New York Times. My dad wrote for the New York Times.
Wow. Okay.
Well,
my dad is the guy who edited JFK's obituary in November 1963 when I was just a baby. I was born in Flushing.
Okay. And you developed that I don't want to call it an accent, but that way of speaking because of your service in the military? Is that where that came from? Or
Mr. Dillon, I was John Holmes' stunt double for 11 years, okay, on Real Housewives of Reseda. I talk the way that I talk because of my exposure to different places and different things. My father's family were Finno-Swedish and my mother's family Scots-Canadians. I'm as American as apple pie, I assure you.
All right, but you do have an accent. It's not a bad thing.
I have a speech impediment. And, if I was cross-eyed, you wouldn't be doing that to me. If I was retarded like Adam Schiff, you wouldn't be putting that out all the time, would you? Okay, so I have a speech impediment. Make fun of me, Mr. Norman. Okay, I'm an easy target for smart guys like you and Greg.
All right, I apologize. So, for those of you who think maybe it's a bit unfair to be judging Eric Swallwell before he's had due process, maybe we're attaching too much significance to the accusers, we do have a little guide, luckily, that we can rely on to kind of put this in perspective and help us with our sense of fairness. Let's take a look.
The chances that 3 or 4 women independently who never met each other would have similar experiences with one person. So either, Ari, this person committed these horrific acts, or he is the single unluckiest person in the world for these people to conspire and make up lies against him. But it's a very hard case to make, right, the more allegations that come in.
And even the counter example.
Yeah, what are the chances?
Wow. Talk about projecting.
Is that 3 or 4 women independently who never met each other would have similar experiences with one person.
I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he's very persuasive.
He's making a very good case against himself, isn't he?
Well, when a man is indicting himself, don't interrupt him for the love of God.
And what does Adam Schiff have to say?
We are better than this.
No, that's actually Swallwell saying.
We are better than
Adam
this.
Schiff was not. Yes, we're better than this. But when were the Democrats not like this? I mean, Bill Clinton, remember how they circled the wagons to protect him? The National Organization for Women, they completely cashed in any credibility, what tiny bit of credibility they may have had to defend him. Keith Ellison is another one. Jesse Jackson. The numbers are legion. You remember the first time Tony Wee Wee got caught, Huma Abedin's husband? They tried to protect him from that. It took like a 3rd or 5th go around before they, expelled him. And he still thinks he could run again. You remember when they all protected John Edwards and pretended it was just tabloid nonsense that the National Enquirer was making things up about his baby mama or whatever, his strap-on, the Riel Hunter, the woman who was working for him and had his kid. And then suddenly it all breaks at once at precisely the correct moment so that Clinton can have a grand mal with baby Lord Husseino for the first organic primary the Democrats had held in 50 years.
You have a good memory.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday who was suggesting that politicians in general, have more illicit sex, let's say, extramarital sex than the average person or the average profession. He didn't frame it as, Democrats or Republicans. But now that you rattled off all those names, maybe it is more Democrats than Republicans. What do you think?
I mean, the Republicans haven't cloaked themselves in glory here. I mean, Tony Gonzalez had to quit, but all that was out in the open. Nobody was protecting Tony Gonzalez, right? Okay. Denny Hastert, advantaging himself as a wrestling coach. He was the guy who could do the 3-handed Nelson on the wrestling boys when he was the wrestling coach. Nobody protected him. Nobody said, "Oh, there's no way Denny Hastert would do that." If Denny Hastert was a Democrat, it would have gone 9.5 months with everybody on MS Now or MSNBC or CBS saying what an amazing guy he was. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. The man hasn't been convicted of anything. How dare you? Everyone has sex. How could you suggest that this is somehow unwholesome?
Well, isn't there now a proposal to try to force the release of the names of people that have been protected by the congressional, what is it, the
funds, the people
the
that
slush fund to protect congressmen or congresswomen for allegations of sexual misconduct, right?
I think you'll find Jimmy Hoffa's body before you find a signature on that bill, Mr. Dillon.
It's that beautiful congresswoman from Florida that is trying to push it forward. Paulina, is that her name?
Paulina Luna.
Yeah. I believe she's spearheading the effort to force the release of the names in those files.
Right. Okay. I'm sure she is, and I cheer her on. I also cheer on those who want to make it so that congressmen can't do inside trading of equities. But that's another thing. It would be unusual to find a signature on that law anywhere.
Right. So you mentioned a moment ago, Nils, about Democrats protecting each other with this stuff. So let's be specific. Do you think that it was widely known amongst Democrats that Swallwell was sexually assaulting women?
Does Rose Kennedy own a black dress?
Okay, so that's a yes, but how would it be known?
Because they all talk to each other. They traffic in secrets, and they have, like I've already characterized, a safe, tame, petting zoo media that when the Republicans are in power, they lay siege to the Republicans, and when the Democrats are in power, the media is in power.
So gossip is their currency. That is the way they do business.
Right. So a lot of people have been saying that
it's just marketing. It's all it is. It's not news. When the political media starts talking about the Democrats, they're not reporting news. They're branding, they're marketing, they're the publicity spreader for the Democrat Party. And if they go after one Democrat, like they're going after Swallwell now, it's to drive the getaway car for all the rest of them. You'll notice that the CBS News isn't over there with a scope up Gallego's butt or Schiff's butt, demanding to know what did you know and when did you know it.
Yeah, I predict that at some point Schiff will be taken down. So what about Jeffrey Epstein? A lot of people have been saying that those who socialize with him, the Epstein files, in my view, have been used to smear a lot of people simply for socializing with him. And some are saying, well, they knew what he was up to. And I've been skeptical about that, because why would Jeffrey Epstein be telling his friends? And, I don't know what sexual fetishes my friends indulge in. So would you say the same thing about Jeffrey Epstein's circle of friends? Do you think they knew what he was up to?
No.
Because of they don't have that protective network of friends and media that you're talking about?
No, because there's a different context for what Epstein was up to. Mr. Norman, Jeffrey Epstein was running a honey trap, and he was probably just the facilitator. I think that it was CIA and MI6 running the honey trap, and I think the case officer was Ghislaine Maxwell. She's the one who's still alive. She could have fled this country and gone anywhere in Europe, but she chose to be here. And I think the reason that they shut it down in 2007, 2008 was because Prince Andrew of the royal family blundered into what was a very lucrative operation where they could exploit the men who come with the famous men. They weren't after Bill Clinton or Donald Trump or any of that. They were looking at the famous, wealthy, connected men. They could process their phones. They could develop information. They could recruit them for special favors, that sort of thing. And the teenage girls were just the icing on the cake to draw them in. It's like a worm on a hook, and that's all. That's how cynical some of the intelligence agencies truly are. And one of the reasons I think that this is the case is because the person who had custody of all of the Epstein material in the FBI, Jim Dennehy, Southern District of New York, was not a child sex trafficking investigator. He didn't work in the realm of banking fraud, reactive crime, any of the traditional beat of the FBI other than counterintelligence. From start to finish, his first day until the day he resigned, after Pam Bondi ordered him on live television to hand over all the files, he was a counterintelligence agent. And they pushed Epstein everything over into the counterintelligence side to compartment it off from any kind of meaningful scrutiny.
So what's the significance of Ghislaine Maxwell choosing not to flee to Europe? You mentioned that, but I wasn't quite following. So what about that?
What would her life be worth in Europe as compared to here? I think she would be far more endangered in Europe. Some people think it's an Israeli operation. I'll tell you, if it was an Israeli job, Mr. Norman, there would have been dead bodies everywhere when that thing got blown.
You mean better to be in prison here, or that she was not expecting to be in prison here?
She knew that she was going to wind up having to go to prison at some point, and she would be safer in custody in the United States or under house arrest in the United States than afoot in Europe, because there are a lot of wealthy, well-connected, government-connected people from a lot of different countries who probably have intelligence exposure, counterintelligence exposure under whatever regime, whether it's the Turks, the Saudis, the Greeks, anything. She is much safer here than she would ever be afoot in the EU. And she could go anywhere in the EU. If you look at her father's profile, her father looks like a classic British spook. He came from Czechoslovakia in the 30s as a Czech Jew. He changed his name to an English name. He was in the British military. Then he had a kind of a shadowy position in British media, and ultimately committed suicide. His profile looks to me like MI6 from top to bottom.
All right, well, getting back to our friend who is possibly headed to prison, what do you think of the next steps? You're happy about that. Me too, actually. I don't like that guy at all.
It's called a grand jury, I think. Isn't that what Greg calls it?
It depends on what state they pursue the charges. In Connecticut, we don't really use grand juries, but in New York, I believe they do. Certainly the feds do. So that's probably the next step in the process. Although the civil matters can go at their own pace. They don't have to follow any waiting for a criminal indictment to file their charges.
The advantage he would hold in the civil arena at this point is his lawyers could always plead the fifth in a civil arena, saying he still might go up on criminal charges, state or federal. So that's how he would avoid being deposed. You remember they gave Cosby a special deal where they said, we won't prosecute you. And in lieu of that, you're going to have to sit for civil deposition. He sat for civil deposition. And then the district attorney in Pennsylvania, I think it was Philadelphia, Bucks County, said, well, we're going to bring criminal charges anyway. And he was in prison for a little over 2 years before the courts overturned that for double jeopardy. They had given him immunity from prosecution on the criminal side, and then they pissed backwards on their own deal.
So the jurisdiction is a very relevant issue. And I think all these simpletons on X and everywhere else who are playing whataboutisms regarding the people who supposedly had sex with minors in connection with Jeffrey Epstein, maybe they should pay attention and learn from this, because I've been saying all along, why are they complaining about the DOJ, whether it's Pam Bondi or anybody on the federal level? Having sex with a minor, however you feel about it, is a local law, not a federal offense. So I don't know why more people don't understand that.
Yeah. State, but yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, state law, yeah.
Yeah, state. Well, local means city. Yeah, right. So state law as opposed to federal.
Yep.
So anyway. All right. So when your book is, people, I know sometimes they give you a publication date and it turns out to change, but it looks like your book is going to come out in June, Nils?
June the 9th. And I'll share with you, gentlemen, a little tiny tasty morsel from that book. There was a private detective here about Los Angeles named Anthony Pellicano, who went to federal prison for wiretapping people. And Anthony's role in Hollywood was to be the crocodile in the pig pen. He wiretapped a lot of people. He did some bad things, maybe here and there. But most of the people, not all, most of the people he wiretapped would have been happy to pay him to wiretap their enemies too. And contemporaneous with all this, I was having contact in the early 2000s with a guy from the Bureau, a couple of guys from the Bureau who were working Pellicano on the extortion angle, the hand grenades in his safe, the wiretap equipment, all this. He was already in federal custody at Metropolitan Detention Center, waiting his turn. And one of my guys at the FBI asked me, well, are you hearing anything else out on the streets that's interesting to you, Nils? And I had an organized crime informant, this was maybe 2003, say to me, the other day, I think I saw Whitey Bulger in West LA. Whitey Bulger of the Irish mob out of South
Winter
Boston.
Hill Gang. Winter Hill Gang.
Santa Monica, right? Didn't they find him in Santa Monica?
Well, that was many years later. So
Yeah.
I'm talking to this Bureau guy, and suddenly the line gets real cold. It's not so fun and friendly. It goes like 5-10 seconds of cold line. And finally he says to me, who's your informant? He didn't ask me where in West LA, what time of day, what was he driving? Are you sure about that? He asked me, who's your informant? Okay, now, what this tells me contextually is, what if the Bureau always knew exactly where Bulger was and kept a watch on him to see who his playmates were on the West Coast? What if they were still running him as an informant and telling him, we will keep you out of jail as long as we can, but not until we are, we'll protect you as best we can, but we want a full vetting of all this, and we want to know everybody that you were effing around with.
Well, Nils, I will add to that story because I did have a conversation with a gentleman from Massachusetts in law enforcement, and he said that even though I think Whitey Bulger was a top 10 fugitive in the FBI, only until the Boston U.S. Attorney's Office, I don't want to say demanded, but requested that the U.S. Marshals Service be invited to participate in the manhunt, only then was Whitey Bulger found. Not before.
That's pretty curious to me, Mr. Dillon. Now, I had a very good friend in New York City named John Connolly. Not the same one. This John Connolly was NYPD Organized Crime Squad, and he went to work for Graydon Carter at Vanity Fair and Spy Magazine after retiring from NYPD. And it was at his funeral. He's the guy who wrote the book Filthy Rich about Epstein. I was at his funeral at St. Vincent Ferrer in the big city in 2022, May of 22, when I got the notification on my phone that I had been permanently banned from social media for stochastic terrorism. And it was in his funeral in that church that afternoon that I decided I would write my professional memoir. And when I got back to the New York Athletic Club, I opened up my laptop and started banging the book out at that very moment. Connolly was a very fine man. Our politics were a little bit different. He once got me denounced by Ann Coulter in print. I mean, she called me the secret police of American politics. So did Dick Morris, all of this crazy stuff. I love Ann Coulter. I don't know her personally. But it was pretty funny that, John was like a Labor Democrat. I love the guy. He was my Gaelic rabbi.
Okay.
Well, if just judging it in its written form, if that book is just halfway decent, I think it'll be a hit because you are an absolutely world-class orator, and I'm sure you'll be able to do a good job selling the book.
Nils, when the book comes out and they do an audio book, you're going to have to do the voiceover.
I've already done it. It's already in the can and recorded.
Perfect.
Now, Vinnie Penn wants me to visit Connecticut sometime in the fall to co-host his radio show on AM radio, very close to you, Mr. Dillon.
Yes,
so When I'm in New Haven, I will look you up, Mr. Dillon.
I'm 20 minutes away.
All right.
Roger.
And Vinnie Penn has a pretty good following here in Connecticut. I couldn't give you numbers, but he is a very popular talk show
I don't
host.
care if he has 2 followers. The man is fantastic. I love being on his show. It's a privilege to borrow his microphone, man. It's a privilege to borrow that of Jeff Norman.
Well, since you said that, you may have to put up with me in Connecticut because I still have family there, so I visit. So maybe the stars will align. We can all hang out together.
That'd be great.
The nut back in the nutmeg state, are we?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. At the very least, I hope you'll come on with us when your book comes out and tell us some more tales. Have you ever crossed paths with any of the Manson people involved? When I said the Manson people, but anybody involved in that whole situation?
Yes.
Book at all?
Yes, I am loath to identify any client of mine, but I had a journalist whom I won't identify writing a book about the Manson situation. I had kind of a theory that was ancillary and alternative to that of Vincent Bugliosi, who wrote Helter Skelter.
Right.
And
so you're talking about Tom O'Neill. Who's my informant? Who's my informant?
Okay, now I'm not talking about O'Neill, but I will tell you that there are a number of ringers, people, aged hippies who pretend to be this member of the Manson family or that member of the Manson family. And to them, it's a hobby thing. They collect a little money sometimes. Someone will pay them money for an interview and they're not the real person. And they use this vernacular of the hippie. They'll use the moniker that was identified in Helter Skelter, one of the other books and all this. So this journalist came to me and asked me, can you sort out this and that? And I sorted out who the real people were. And they were scattered all over the country. A couple of them in Canada, actually. And I'll share with you this. There was a man in Central California. He and his sister had both been briefly in the Manson thing at Spahn Ranch and whatever, and had gotten away from it before the murders and whatever. So I'm up there in the Eastern Sierra talking to him, and he shared with me that his sister had gone on to another group of people. She met an interesting, charismatic minister in the Bay Area and fell under his sway. And when they all transplanted themselves to Guyana in South America, she was there on the magic Kool-Aid day and died in the jungles of Guyana. And he said something very important, and it is this. They were all looking for a father figure, whether it was the Manson people, People's Temple, Jonestown, they were looking for a father figure. And not too long after that, I had to interview one of the Manson people who was a murderer, Bobby Beausoleil. And Beausoleil is an interesting character. He's a little cherub who was Kenneth Anger's boyfriend. Kenneth Anger was Aleister Crowley's devil-worshipping acolyte in Los Angeles. So he was convicted for his role in the murder of a character named Shorty Shea. And he would get like 2 or 3 interviews a week in the Oregon State Penitentiary. He managed to get transferred up to Eugene, and he was on ice up there. And I had a sit-down interview with this man. And he said exactly what the man in the Eastern Sierra had said. He said they were all looking for a father figure. And Charlie was the kindest, most loving father they ever had.
Oh, my goodness. That's kind of why I asked Greg Dillon to co-host the show.
You have low standards.
Hey, before you go, Nils, I want to make sure that you saw a comment from Somerville John. He is such a steadfast, reliable, wonderful regular. He's practically our other host. And he says, I am really impressed with Mr. Grevillius. So
I'm very flattered. Thank you very much, Somerville John.
And I am too, actually. You are a great guest. So let's make sure that people know how to find you.
GrevilliusPI.com, and I'll be putting up a separate author's webpage very soon to deal with the social media. And this is kind of picking up speed, more speed than I anticipated. I'm not a public figure. I operate covertly. So at a certain point, I'm going to have to sort of wind down a little bit of the detective work and maybe adjust things a bit, because I'm doing more and more public appearances and that sort of thing. And I didn't anticipate the success or the exposure. I really didn't.
Oh, you're far too witty to stay out of the public eye. So make that adjustment.
Every beat up cop and private detective in this country and in Canada, Mexico, whatever, is a great raconteur and a terrible writer. Greg Dillon is probably the exception to that. His book is probably very good.
Oh, it is. I remember asking him if he had a ghostwriter because it was really well written. He denied it. He denied it.
Well, Colin Powell couldn't write his own book. None of these bastards can. Greg Dillon can, and I wrote mine. So there you go. What do you think of that?
Well, Nils, I mean, you tell such a great story that it doesn't surprise me that you would write your own book. My original first couple of drafts read like a 300-page affidavit, and I realized no one's going to want to read it unless I decide to educate myself on how to write nonfiction. So I did some studying, I did some reading of books, I attended a couple of lectures, and then eventually I think I figured it out so I could tell the story accurately and chronologically, but also in an entertaining fashion. So, and I'm sure you've done the same.
Why don't you know what we should do? We should do a dual book event with both of you.
I'd be very pleased.
Yeah, I mean, Connecticut would be the obvious place since you're planning to come there anyway, and Greg lives there. So,
I'd be happy to ride Nils' coattails.
Yeah. Are you going to be doing other book events too around the country? I know it's not like the old days where publishers have a budget and they send you around the country. But sometimes authors figure it out on their own. Do you plan to be doing events here and there?
I'm doing an event next month in Tucson before the book even comes out. I've made the acquaintanceship of Chris DeSimone in Tucson. He's one of the people trying to recall their county sheriff in the wake of the Guthrie situation. I'm going to be at the Iowa State Fair in August to be on the Simon Conway show. He was one of the first journalists to predict the rise of Donald Trump, maybe in 2012, 2013, and he's an Englishman. A very fine radio broadcaster. He and I have a shared interest in a recently solved cold case homicide that I consulted in Iowa. And yes, I'll do some promotional work. What I would truly like to do is have a weekly crime roundup, whether it's a podcast or a radio broadcast, and bring on cops, district attorneys, defense counsel, that sort of thing. The Nancy Grace side of things is horrifying because she concentrates on the most obvious parts of it, and that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is the less obvious, the more macabre, the things that attract the eye of a veteran detective. Greg will tell you that the absolute varsity in any municipal agency, it's going to be the homicide squad and the guys who kill people for a living, the surveillance unit.
Will Greg tell me that?
Not tonight.
All right. One more thing. I know I keep trying to end it, but you mentioned the Nancy Guthrie case. Do you have a theory on what happened to Nancy?
I do.
And would you be willing to share it with you before we really say goodnight?
She was murdered the night that she went missing. And that was the object, was to murder her and make her murder ambiguous by removing her. There was never a credible ransom demand, and it wasn't a kidnapping for ransom. It was a kidnapping to remove. I do not believe that the person who kidnapped her for sexual purposes, like Polly Klaas was kidnapped, though that is a remote possibility. It is my belief that somebody wanted her killed, somebody very close to her, There was no sign of a break-in at her house. So at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, an 84-year-old woman will only open the door for somebody she knows or believes that she knows. It was somebody very close to her.
So you do not have a theory as to what the motive for the murder is?
I do. Personal. Probably either revenge or money. And I'm going to leave it at that, because if I get more specific, I could be getting hard up against a libel suit or something like that. I don't have any proof of any of this. I'm looking at this highly contextually. The sheriff characterized on the night that the whole thing was disclosed, that she was missing, like 36 hours after she went missing, he called the interior of her house a crime scene. We don't know to the extent that it was a crime scene. There was a trail of blood out the front of the house. There was some supposition that the guy had gone in the back door. If he went in the back door, he had no reason to remove the camera from the front, which is what he did when he would first put the weeds over it to obscure it. And then he just took the Ring camera off the front of the house. The fact that he was carrying the gun stuffed openly in his trousers like that tells me he is not a felon. No felon is going to carry his gun like that other than for just a brief moment while he ties someone up.
Somerville, John, you're not suggesting that that nice woman who's the TV host had her killed, are you?
I am not. Not
John,
in.
I'm talking about his comment there. You see his comment?
I see Somerville Jones' comment.
Yeah.
That is not my belief. I do not believe that Samantha Guthrie has anything to do with this. I do not.
No, I was asking Somerville John if that's what he's suggesting. Yeah. A drain on the family. What does that even mean? All right. Well, anyway, let's have you back when the book comes out, and we'll be talking. Maybe do a book event. Maybe share a summer home in Cape Cod. Who knows? Possibilities are endless. You wouldn't rule that out, would you?
Well, Cape Cod, I was the director of underwater amphibious sales at Chappaquiddick Oldsmobile for 11 seasons.
I can't believe you had a Chappaquiddick joke ready to go. Perfect. All right. Thank you, Nils. You're great. We love you.
I love you too. You boys stay out of trouble. Now,
all right.
Take on some fuel and ammo. It's going to be a long patrol.
All right. Take care.
Good night.
What a guy. I had no expectations. I saw a few interviews he did. I didn't watch the whole thing. Maybe if I watched the whole thing, he would have been witty then too. But he was cracking us up before we even started the show.
Oh, very colorful. Very colorful.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you want to do Has It Happened to Greg or save it?
Yeah, let's save it. We're on a high note here with Nils, and I think we'll just table it for the next one.
Okay. This has become our habit. If it seems like the show's complete, we just wait till the next time. I like that. I like that. We take the temperature of the room. Tomorrow night, join us at 7 p.m. Eastern times when Scott Ritter will join me, as we always do on Wednesday nights, for Ask the Inspector. And then on Thursday night, the Whiners, also 7 p.m. Eastern time, Stanislav Kripidnik, who is a former U.S. Army officer. He's now based in Russia, and he is a very astute political analyst. So that should be an interesting show. And let's remind people one more time about each of the books of our two esteemed authors. This is your book, The Thin Blue Lie, and ustourofduty.org. Right there next to it is the place to get it, unless you want to go to Greg's website for an autographed copy. I know you've told me how successful these podcast plugs are for book sales. You may have to order another shipment. And the last lawman, Nils Grevillius. Yes, it's Grevillius, even though it's the letter I. We talked about this before the show started. I don't understand it. I didn't even ask for an explanation. The man told me it's a Grevillius, so it's Grevillius. And he says he's an American. He's as American as apple pie.
That's what he says.
In the America I know, the letter I is I or I, not A.
Yeah. Well, it might be a Macintosh apple pie.
All right. Who knows? Maybe we'll get that mystery solved on the next time he joins us. All right, Greg. Thanks a lot, and thanks to our beloved audience. See you all soon.
Good night.